What if I told you that the most feared basketball player of his entire generation was flagged as a problem before he ever played a single second of NBA basketball?
Because a lot of the kids that I was playing against were inner city kids. And so you're looking at me as if, okay, this kid's soft.
He was a sicko when it came to that kind of shit, like trying to find any kind of advantage or angle he could possibly get.
And the man who flagged him wasn't some scout, some coach, or some talking head. It was Larry Bird, one of the coldest, most ruthless competitors the sport has ever produced. A man who spent his career telling opponents exactly what he was about to do to them, and then doing it anyway.
And I would tell him, I said, when I face him, we're gonna go at it. You're not intimidating me, I'm not going anywhere.
Bird looked at an 18-year-old kid straight out of high school and said this: "He's the best I've seen in a long time. I would never compare him to Michael, but if anyone is close, it'll be him." That was the warning, and almost nobody listened.
And he wanted to be the next Michael Jordan, if not better, and he wanted that one-on-one challenge.
But how did a teenager who had never played a college game turn into the monster Larry Bird tried to tell the league about?
So at 13 years old, I had a kill list. I gotta hunt them down.
And why did Kobe Bryant deliberately make his own life harder than it ever needed to be, chasing a standard that was slowly eating him alive? Well, to find out, we have to go all the way back to a driveway in Italy. Long before Kobe was the Black Mamba, he was a quiet American kid, living in a country where he barely knew the language. His father, Joe Jellybean Bryant, was a former NBA player who had taken his talents overseas to keep his career alive.
I grew up in Italy, okay? So I didn't even know Oscars was a thing. I had no idea.
So while other future stars were growing up on the blacktops of American cities, Kobe was growing up in towns like Reggio Emilia, watching grainy VHS tapes his grandfather mailed to him from the States. He didn't just watch them, he broke them down frame by frame. He learned Michael Jordan's footwork not by copying it in real time, but by rewinding it over and over until he understood why it worked. While the other kids were playing, Kobe was dissecting, and living overseas gave him something most future stars never had: distance. He wasn't surrounded by the American basketball culture that quietly tells you what's normal, what's possible, and what a kid your age is supposed to be able to do. He built his game in isolation, on quiet European courts against grown men in his father's professional world, with nobody there to tell him to slow down.
Every time I saw my father step on the court, I got happy, I got chilled, because everybody's going crazy, cheering for him. And that's how I felt about my father, and I think that I was maybe a little too young to realize how everybody looked up to my father then. But as I look back now, it's like a great. My parents basically told me, "You're going to an Italian school, we want you to learn a new language."
Italian boy, I didn't understand the fashion. It was like somebody took me and dropped me in a bucket in a tub of ice cold water, because it shocked the shit out of me.
By the time his family finally moved back to the United States, Kobe was almost a stranger in his own country. He spoke Italian better than he understood American slang.
My beeper is beeping, so let me quick pause as I grab the microphone. It's for all of y'all.
He didn't share the same friends, the same references, or the same easy cool that came naturally to the other kids. Some people looked at the quiet foreign kid and assumed he'd be soft. That assumption did not survive very long.
Because a lot of the kids that I was playing against were inner city kids. And so you're looking at me as if, okay, this kid's soft.
When his family enrolled him at Lower Merion High School just outside Philadelphia, something became immediately clear. This kid wasn't just talented, he was wired unlike anyone in the building. Kobe treated a high school gym like a laboratory. He was the first one in and the last one out, asking coaches questions that grown men couldn't answer.
I just go back to the gym, and they'd see me leave. That was my way of showing them, yeah, I may be from the suburbs, but you're not going to outwork me.
While his classmates worried about the weekend, he was studying NBA film and testing himself against players twice his age at local Pro-Am games, holding his own against people already in or near the league. He had no interest in being the best kid in his school. He had already decided in his own head that he was going to be the best player alive.
I wanted to be one of the best basketball players to ever play, and anything else that was outside of that lane, I didn't have time for.
By his senior year, he had turned a program that hadn't sniffed a state title in decades into a genuine powerhouse. Kobe would drag Lower Merion all the way to the Pennsylvania State Championship game, a stage the school had waited generations to reach. On the biggest night of his young life, he delivered, leading his team to the title and finishing his high school career as the greatest player his region had ever produced. But this was only the beginning of the doubt. Kobe was about to make a decision that had half the basketball world convinced he'd lost his mind. He wasn't going to college. At a time when almost nobody jumped straight from high school to the NBA, an 18-year-old from the suburbs of Philadelphia stood up in his high school gym, slid on a pair of sunglasses, and announced he was taking his talents directly to the pros.
I have decided to skip college and take my talent to the NBA.
What people don't know about that is I had a bet with my classmates on whether or not I would do that or not.
The reaction was brutal. Analysts called it arrogant. Some called it foolish.
Did you ever have any concerns about jumping straight to high school, from high school right into the pros?
No.
No?
The idea that a teenager who had spent his whole life outworking children could suddenly hang with grown men in the toughest league on the planet seemed absurd. But could a high schooler with no college resume really survive the NBA? Or was he a spoiled kid about to embarrass himself in front of the entire country?
With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
Well, one man knew the answer before anyone else did. Jerry West, the legendary executive of the Los Angeles Lakers, brought Kobe in for a pre-draft workout. And what he saw terrified him, in the best way possible.
Watching him go to a summer league game, okay? The place was jam-packed, and my son relayed a story to me just today about, and I obviously was there, I think he scored 29 points as a 17-year-old kid. And after the game, he remarked to my son, boy, that was really easy.
West had spent a lifetime evaluating the greatest players in history, and here was an 18-year-old carving up seasoned professionals with a competitive fire he later said he had rarely seen from anyone. This wasn't a kid hoping to be drafted. This was a kid treating a workout like a personal insult that needed answering.
Every day in practice for me was really trying to annihilate everybody that I was playing against. Because I wanted to prove you don't need to babysit me.
West walked out of that gym convinced it was the best pre-draft session he had ever witnessed, and he became fixated on landing him. The problem was the Lakers didn't have a high enough pick to just take him, so West got creative. On draft night, the Charlotte Hornets used the 13th overall pick to select Kobe, then, exactly as planned, shipped him to Los Angeles for veteran center Vlade Divac. The kid was a Laker, but the doubters weren't done. Now Kobe had to prove that Jerry West's gamble wasn't a mistake, and his rookie season handed the skeptics plenty of ammunition.
The very first practice, we were going through a walkthrough, and he was going 100 miles an hour. I'm like, dude, calm down, it's a walkthrough.
Buried behind veterans, he barely played early on. And when the moment finally came for him to shine, it went about as wrong as it possibly could.
Kobe Bryant making his first appearance in Madison Square Garden. 18 years of age, and he'll go to the free throw line. There is his first point in the NBA.
It was the 1997 playoffs. The Lakers were battling the Utah Jazz, and with the game and the series on the line, the ball found its way into the hands of the youngest player on the floor. Kobe rose up for a game-tying shot. Air ball. He got another look in overtime. A teenager on the sport's biggest stage, missing everything, in front of a nation that had already decided he wasn't ready.
I shot 5 air balls on national TV in front of millions of people that cost us the series, and I'm 18.
Most 18-year-olds would have been shattered. Kobe had a different response entirely. Instead of hiding, he flew straight to a gym and shot through the night, refusing to let those air balls define him.
Get over yourself. You feel embarrassed. You're not that important. Like, get over yourself. Yep.
He didn't see failure. He saw a to-do list. Where other players would have carried that humiliation like a wound, Kobe carried it like a weapon. He'd taken those shots because he trusted himself when nobody else did, and he wasn't about to apologize for it. That single night tells you almost everything about who he was going to become. The worst moment of his young career didn't break him. It sharpened him. And this is where Larry Bird's warning starts to make sense. What Bird had spotted in Kobe wasn't just talent. It was the same sickness he carried himself. That almost inhuman refusal to be anything less than the best in the building. Around this time, Kobe's habit started turning into legend. While the rest of the league treated basketball as a job, he treated it as a religion.
He took me out to eat, and I said, "What you getting ready to do?" "I'm going to the club." And he said, "I'm going to the gym." And that was him.
Teammates would show up for early morning workouts feeling dedicated, only to find Kobe already there, drenched in sweat, having started hours before sunrise. Stories spread of him in the gym before dawn, running the same footwork drills endlessly, draining hundreds of shots before most people had finished their coffee.
We on the track before the sun comes up. And then we lift weights so hard that, all right, let's go shoot. And I'm like, motherfucker, I can't lift my arms. You want me to go shoot a basketball right now? Like, his grind was sickening.
Nobody was watching. That was the point. He did it because somewhere out there, someone else might be putting in the work, and that thought was unbearable to him.
If you're obsessively training 2-3 hours every single day over a year, over 2 years,
you're to accelerate.
You make quantum leaps, man.
That drive is exactly what Larry Bird recognized. It was the same fuel that had powered Bird himself, the quiet terror that someone somewhere wanted it more. By his second season, the entire league started to feel it. Kobe became the youngest all-star starter in NBA history, a teenager sharing the floor with legends. And he didn't act like he was lucky to be there. At one point during that all-star game, he famously waved off Hall of Famer Karl Malone, telling one of the most dominant players alive to clear out so he could go one-on-one.
He asked for a pick and roll, and Kobe waved them off. Kobe was like, no, I got this all by myself. And he waved Karl out.
The kid had no fear. He won a slam dunk contest. His jersey climbed the sales charts, and his game began to look eerily familiar to anyone who had studied Michael Jordan. But the most dangerous part of Kobe wasn't the highlights. It was what happened when the clock wound down and the game hung in the balance. He craved that moment. In the final seconds, when most players quietly hoped the ball would find someone else's hands, Kobe demanded it be in his.
I've seen guys shy away from those moments, and he's a guy that never done that.
Larry Bird had lived by the same code, famously wanting the last shot in his hands and nobody else's in the entire world. Kobe was the same animal, born a generation later. Over the years, opposing coaches and defenders would come to dread the sight of him rising up with the game on the line, because more often than not, he buried them. By the way, if you're enjoying uncovering how this kid became a legend, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because the next chapter is where everything Bird saw coming becomes real. Anyway, as Kobe's role grew, so did his partnership with a 7-foot, 300-pound wrecking ball named Shaquille O'Neal. On paper, it was the most dominant duo in basketball.
We are the most enigmatic, controversial, most dominant 1-2 punch, little to big, ever created, and we will never be duplicated.
A young, relentless perimeter assassin next to the most physically unstoppable big man on earth. The Lakers had everything they needed. But could two of the fiercest competitors in the sport really coexist long enough to win?
The day me and Shaq got in a fist fight, Rick Fox, my teammates, they all thought I was absolutely crazy.
When Phil Jackson, the coach who had guided Jordan's Bulls to 6 championships, arrived in Los Angeles, the answer became yes.
Phil introduced meditation to us when he came to our team in 99, 2000. It was something that I instantly gravitated to because I could see the effects.
Jackson built his offense around Shaq's dominance and Kobe's brilliance. And in the 2000 season, the Lakers steamrolled the league. But their path to the finals nearly ended in disaster. In the Western Conference Finals, the Portland Trail Blazers pushed them to a deciding Game 7. And for most of that night, the Lakers looked finished, trailing by 15 in the fourth quarter on their home floor on the brink of a historic collapse. Then Kobe took over. Down the stretch, the young guard steadied a panicking team, attacking, creating, refusing to let the moment swallow them. In the final minutes, he lofted a lob that Shaquille O'Neal caught and hammered home, a play that instantly became one of the defining images of the era. The Blazers crumbled. The Lakers survived.
Now his assist to Shaquille O'Neal makes it a 6-point difference with 41 3/10 seconds left.
And in that comeback, you could see the partnership at its absolute best. The kid and the giant, briefly perfectly in sync. Which brought them to the moment this entire story has been building toward. The 2000 NBA Finals. Standing between the Lakers and a championship were the Indiana Pacers, coached by Larry Bird. The very same man who, years earlier, had looked at a high schooler and quietly told everyone this kid was the closest thing to Jordan he had ever seen. Now, Bird had to stop him, and for a while, it looked like he might. Early in the series, Kobe sprained his ankle badly enough to miss an entire game. Most people assumed that whenever he returned, he'd be limited, cautious, a shell of himself. They were wrong. In Game 4, on an ankle that had no business carrying him, Kobe scored 28 points, took over in overtime, and dragged the Lakers to a crucial win, even after Shaquille O'Neal fouled out and left him alone to finish the job. Bird's Pacers had no answer. The teenager Larry Bird had warned the league about was all grown up. And now he was burying the very man who saw it coming.
21 years, you said you've always dreamed of winning a championship. Is it what you dreamed of? Oh, it's everything and more. I mean, you have the Laker colors falling from the ceiling, the fans going crazy. That's it, fellas. We work all year long for it, man. Shaq the man, the most dominant player in the world. Championship, it's ours.
The Lakers won the title. That finals wasn't just a championship, it was a confirmation. Everything Bird predicted in that quiet high school gym had come true, right in front of him, on the biggest stage in the sport. But could Los Angeles keep it going? They didn't just keep it going, they dominated. The Lakers rolled to a second straight championship, then a third, completing one of the last three-peats in NBA history, all before Kobe had even reached his mid-20s. On the surface, he was living every basketball dream imaginable. Underneath, something was cracking. Two alphas as fierce as Kobe and Shaq were never truly built to share a throne. Kobe wanted to be pushed harder, to practice longer, to grind deeper. Shaq operated differently, leaning on his once-in-a-generation size and trusting he could flip a switch whenever it mattered. To Kobe, that switch was an insult. He couldn't understand how anyone blessed with that much talent could ever coast, even for a single practice.
Who would Shaq be if he had your work ethic?
He'd be the greatest of all time. I don't deal with people that don't commit at that level.
To Shaq, Kobe was a stubborn young perfectionist trying to do too much on his own. Over time, those small differences hardened into resentment. It stopped being private. Their frustration started leaking into interviews, into the locker room, into the newspapers, until the whole basketball world knew the two Lakers stars could barely stand to share the same building.
The media would take it and run with it and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, well, bruh, if you were in shape, by the time I run down on a fast break, you're still coming down the first time, bruh. What the hell do you want me to do?
The most dominant duo in the sport was tearing itself apart from the inside, and no amount of winning could fix it. And this was only the start of Kobe's problems. In 2004, with the dynasty already fracturing, the Lakers reached the finals again, this time as heavy favorites over the Detroit Pistons. Everyone expected a coronation. Instead, Detroit dismantled them. A hungry, unselfish, defensive-minded team exposed a Lakers squad that no longer trusted one another, and Los Angeles was humiliated in 5 games. The dynasty was over, and the front office made its choice. They kept Kobe. Shaquille O'Neal, one of the most dominant champions the sport had ever seen, was shipped out, which left Kobe with exactly what he thought he always wanted: his own team. But be careful what you wish for. The seasons that followed were some of the loneliest of his career. Without Shaq, the Lakers stopped being contenders. They were mediocre. Kobe was still spectacular, still terrifying, still putting up numbers that made no sense. But the wins weren't there, and the criticism poured in.
More 40-point games than LeBron and KD, and more 60-point games than LeBron James and Michael Jordan combined.
People said he couldn't win without a dominant big man. They said he was a ball hog. They said his ego had cost the Lakers a dynasty. For the first time in his career, the narrative had turned against him completely. The player who was supposed to be the next Jordan was now being framed as a selfish star who chased off a legend and got nothing but empty stats in return. And Kobe answered the only way he knew how, by scoring in a way that dared anyone to keep doubting him. On one January night in 2006 against the Toronto Raptors, he put on a performance basketball may never see again. He scored 81 points in a single game, the second highest scoring night in league history.
In 2006 against the Toronto Raptors, you scored 81 points.
You know why I had to score 81. Man. Tough days, man.
It was breathtaking. It was also a warning sign. A brilliant scorer carrying dead weight, forced to do everything himself because there was nobody else who could. Kobe was drowning in his own greatness. By 2007, he'd had enough. Frustrated with the direction of the franchise, he demanded a way out. The face of the Lakers wanted to leave the Lakers. But where would he go? Thankfully for Los Angeles, the trade never happened. Instead, the front office made a move that changed everything. They acquired a skilled, versatile big man named Pau Gasol. For the first time since Shaq left, Kobe had a genuine second star. Someone who could operate in the post, pass like a guard, and fit seamlessly beside a demanding superstar. And here's what made it work where the Shaq pairing eventually didn't. Gasol was skilled enough to command respect, but secure enough to let Kobe lead. He didn't fight for the throne. He built next to it.
He toughened Pau Gasol up. He made him a Hall of Famer.
Kobe put some of his dog in Pau.
For years, people had blamed Kobe's personality for the collapse of the last dynasty. Given the right piece, he was about to prove that his single-mindedness wasn't a flaw. It was the reason. The Lakers were reborn. In 2008, Kobe carried them all the way back to the NBA Finals, collecting the league's most valuable player award along the way, silencing everyone who said he couldn't lead a team on his own. But there was one problem. Waiting for him in the finals were the Boston Celtics, the franchise of Larry Bird. The ghost that had hovered over Kobe's entire career now wore green and white, and Boston was loaded. And they wrecked the Lakers. In one of the most painful defeats of Kobe's life, the Celtics didn't just beat Los Angeles, they embarrassed them, closing the series with a blowout so lopsided it felt like a statement. Kobe sat in that locker room a broken man. But if this story has proven anything, it's what he did with pain. He weaponized it. He spent that entire offseason with a single image burned into his mind. The green and white confetti falling on Boston's floor. And he made sure his teammates felt it too.
He opens up the paper and there's like this article about it. And there's a picture of Paul Pierce. So he cuts it out and he folds it up, he puts it in his pocket. And like we're all looking at him, you know, like what's going on? He's like, motivation.
The next year, in 2009, the Lakers returned to the finals. And this time, Kobe finished the job, winning the championship and, for the first time, Finals MVP. His first title as the undisputed leader of his team. No Shaq, no Shadow, just Kobe. He had proven he could be the man, but he wasn't satisfied. There was still unfinished business. There was still Boston. In 2010, the basketball gods gave him exactly what he wanted, a rematch against the Celtics in the finals. Revenge on the sport's biggest stage. The series was a war. Brutal, physical, and it came all the way down to a winner-take-all Game 7 on Kobe's home floor. And on that night, Kobe was awful. His shot wasn't falling. He was pressing, forcing, missing badly, looking nothing like the assassin the world knew.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles. The LA Lakers, the 2010 NBA champions.
I wasn't playing well. I wasn't shooting the ball well at all. And so my teammates
picked you up and they delivered.
Yes.
For most players, that's the end of the story. A bad night in the biggest game of their lives. But Kobe found another way to win. Even with his jumper gone, he attacked the glass, hunted free throws, and willed his team through the ugliest, most stressful game imaginable, refusing to let Boston beat him twice.
And he was like, man, hey, you know what, Perk? I got 30,000 reasons why you can't stop me today.
Kobe had his fifth ring, his second straight Finals MVP, and his revenge against the one franchise that had haunted him since childhood. And there was something poetic about how he did it. Not with a perfect scoring night, but with sheer, ugly, stubborn will. On the one night his greatest gift abandoned him, the thing that carried him was the exact quality Bird had spotted all those years earlier. The refusal to lose, no matter the cost. Talent got Kobe to the finals. That will is what won it when talent wasn't enough. Bird's prediction was complete. He had seen this ruthlessness in a teenager, And now that teenager had 5 championships and a mentality the entire league feared. Somewhere along the way, Kobe had even given that mentality a name: the Black Mamba. But greatness this obsessive always comes with a bill, and eventually that bill comes due. The same relentless drive that made Kobe unstoppable also meant he never stopped. He played through injuries other men would have sat out for months, pushing his body past every reasonable limit. Night after night, year after year.
My back was jacked. Your back can bother you any other day. That shit ain't bothering me today. He gonna have to see me today.
In 2013, it finally broke. Late in a crucial game, chasing a playoff spot the way only he would, Kobe tore his Achilles tendon. One of the most devastating injuries an athlete can suffer. For most players, that's the moment they crumble to the floor and wait to be carried off. Kobe did something almost impossible to believe. He stood up, limped to the free throw line, and with a torn Achilles, calmly knocked down both free throws before walking off the court under his own power.
When the game is more important than the injury itself, you don't feel that damn injury. Hamstring be damned. You're not gonna feel your hamstring.
It was the Mamba mentality in its purest, most painful form. But his body could no longer keep the promises his mind kept making. He fought back from the Achilles tear, only for new injuries to knock him down again and again. A knee, a shoulder, the kind of setbacks that would have ended most careers years earlier. And here was the cruel irony. The same refusal to quit that built his legend was now the thing dragging out his ending. He kept coming back because stopping was never a word in his vocabulary, even when his body was clearly begging him to. The player who once bent games to his will was now fighting just to stay on the floor. And the Lakers around him had sunk into one of the worst stretches in franchise history.
Called me and said, listen, we are so sorry for what happened to this team. We're sorry that we don't have a team around you that can contend for a championship.
The end was coming, and everyone could feel it. But was Kobe really going to fade out quietly? Of course not. On April 13, 2016, in the final game of his 20-year career, a 37-year-old Kobe Bryant, battered and worn down, gave the world one last impossible night. He scored 60 points, willing his team to a comeback win and taking his final bow exactly the way he had lived his entire career. On his own terms, with the ball in his hands, refusing to let the moment be anything less than legendary.
Rest at the end, not in the middle. And that's something I always live by.
It was the perfect ending, or at least it should have been. Then on January 26, 2020, the basketball world was struck by a tragedy that words still struggle to hold. Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash, alongside his 13-year-old daughter Gianna and 7 others. He was 41 years old. The loss reached far beyond basketball. It touched people who had never watched a single game, because Kobe had become something bigger than sport. He was a symbol of what discipline, sacrifice, and an unbreakable will could build.
That is possible, you know, to give every ounce of yourself and literally exhaust yourself to be great at what you want to do.
In the aftermath, tributes poured in from every corner of the world, from players who studied him, from fans who grew up on him, and from legends who competed against him, including the one man who had seen it all coming, Larry Bird. When Bird watched that teenager, years before a single NBA minute, he wasn't handing out a compliment. He was telling the league something it didn't want to hear. That this kid carried the one thing you cannot coach and cannot teach, the same refusal to lose that had made Bird and Jordan 2 of the most feared competitors who ever lived. And he was right about all of it. The 5 rings, the ruthlessness, the willingness to sacrifice comfort, friendships, even his own body, in pursuit of being the best. Bird saw the blueprint. Kobe became the building. And for the next 2 decades, he reshaped the entire sport in his own image. By the way, let me know what you think below. Does Kobe Bryant belong in the top 5 players of all time? Whether you say yes or no, drop your reasoning in the comments. I genuinely want to hear how you'd rank him. Also, did you know that the feud between Kobe and Shaquille O'Neal ran far deeper and got far uglier than most people ever realized? And that the real reason their dynasty fell apart wasn't the one you've been told? To find out the full story behind the most explosive partnership in NBA history, click the video on your screen now.